I'm John Garcia.
And I am Steve Edwards.
We are Weeding Through the BS.
Yes, we are excited to be here on another episode of Weeding Through the BS podcast. Have a great guest with us today that I'm really excited to have because, right, what she's going to talk about, we'll get to that. But, first, always thank you to our sponsors. Our title sponsor, leadershipbooks.com, and what they're doing, helping me write the book of the story, but more importantly, the Owl app, right?
We're our host studio today.
We're our host studio, right? We're here in the Owl studio. Again, if you're an expert and you want to know more about the Owl app, go right to it on, online, download the app, find more about what the Owl app can do for you. Our newest sponsor, OMM Media. Media, Cindy Metzler, right?
Cindy,
so excited to have you on on here. Think Big, and obviously, of course, Premier Virtual that backs everything. So thank you to all of our sponsors. Now, John, you excited today?
Man, we're off to a great start, and we have another great guest. So heck yeah!
And everybody that knows me knows how big of a mama's boy I am. My wife, still says I'm a mama's boy. So like. When
it's not like you get emotional during speeches.
Yeah, right. I've never got emotional during that, right? But I love my mom so much, and the reason that I'm saying that today is because with our guest today, somehow we got connected on LinkedIn. Maybe I got an email or something, and as soon as I saw that, I was like, this is somebody that I need to talk to because of who I am, right? I love my mom. I love my wife. My kids know how close I am, right? So I want my kids to be that close to their mom. So
I had to talk them out of not having a family picture as the logo.
Yeah. We were on all my webinars. What do I have right behind me?
Got the kids.
Somebody asked me one time, Steve, why do you have that right on your webinars? Why don't you use a virtual image? And I said, because I want people to know who I am. I'm a family man. I love my family. I want them to know who I am, right? Doesn't matter if it's in my home office or there. So,
except it makes me look bad. I don't even have a picture on my desk.
Hey, listen, your kids are a little older than mine. You're still a good dad, right? You're still, right. You're there. So without further ado,
who's our guest?
Lesley. Welcome to the Weeding Through the BS podcast. Let's hear a little bit about you, who you are, and that amazing, amazing job board that you run.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having me on your podcast. A lot of people are curious about Hire My Mom. I get questioned about, okay, is she going to come do my laundry? Is she going to clean my house? I'm like, no, that's not the whole gist of it. Back 17 years ago, when I was contemplating launching this, I had thought about, wouldn't it be cute if I had a kid saying, hire my mom? So that's where the first idea came from. And then I was like, okay, that's really not great marketing, but how about if I do hire a mom? And when I went to buy that domain, somebody else already had it. So I was like, okay, I guess I better go back to hire my mom, and I'll just have to work through the marketing part of it. So one of the reasons our logo is the mom, the coffee cup, the computer, is to help our audience see quickly that it's not for domestic jobs. It's for, business jobs. So I started, as I alluded to earlier, Hire My Mom in 2007. And at that point, I had already been working from home for about 14 years. So I'm a dinosaur in the work from home whole movement because I have a 27-year-old. And when I had her, I was like, I'm going back to my big career. I'm going to climb that corporate ladder. I had just finished my master's degree in marketing and PR. So I had zero aspirations to be a stay-at-home mom. But the moment she was born, that mom gene in me went into high gear. So I did go back to work after my 6-week maternity leave, but I cried every single day. Could not handle handing my baby to a complete stranger and going to work for 8 to 10 hours a day. As much as I enjoyed what I was doing, I was entry-level type work doing, I worked for a golf school in Austin, Texas, doing PR and marketing for Dave Pell's golf school, if anybody knows Dave, and really enjoyed it. And it was a small family-owned business. And when I approached them about, hey, is there any opportunity for flex time? Maybe I could work from home 2 days a week. come in the office 3 days a week, but this was 1995. That was like unheard
Foreign
of.
language. Yeah.
Yes, they were like, no, sorry, that's not going to work for us. So we had some tough decisions to make because, like I said, I could not bear leaving her, even though I didn't anticipate that would happen. So we came to the conclusion that I would resign from my job, but I would begin freelancing because I think at that time I had to make at least $500 a month just to pay our mortgage, car, all of our necessities. And that was my motivator. It's not a lot of money, but it's a lot of money when you're starting from nothing.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we gave up, we sold one car. So we became a 1-car family. We ate ramen noodles, which we were used to doing because we put ourselves through college. We cut out cable TV. We did all of that and just lived on the bare minimum until I could get a freelance business going. So that's where it all began for me. I ended up launching a different website back then called Home Based Working Moms. And it was sort of like an online chamber of commerce for women who were either working from home or wanted to work from home. And again, freelancing wasn't real big back then. So it was mainly like creative memories and Tupperware and that kind of stuff. If y'all remember the home parties.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, those network marketing parties still going on, but now it's, nails and hair and toys.
Botox.
And, Botox. Isn't there Botox parties now?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, I was able to get that going and charged a yearly membership fee. So I was able to increase revenue that way. Then I started selling ads to places like Creative Memories and all. So that website ran for about 14 years when I saw that the market was starting to be more open to hiring someone to work from home. So then I was like, what if I could start a website that's like Match.com, but for moms and small businesses, and they could find their perfect match. So at that time in my life, I was a single mom. So Match.com wasn't my life. So that's kind of where the idea came from. I'm remarried now for 14 years or 15 years. So
congratulations.
Yeah. So that's been a while ago, but that's kind of the short little, snippet of where I started and where I'm at now.
You know what I love that you said right there? You saw the market change.
Yep.
To a little bit more work from home, but you pivoted. You mentioned a couple of things there. The working from home, looking at the financial aspect of what did you need to do, and really saying, I'm going to cut out all these other things, cable TV, 1 car.
Real bootstrapping.
That is bootstrapping. Yeah. So I'm a big fan of bootstrapping, and I love, because you weeded through so much stuff to get to where you're at. And I love, John, you've been waiting. You don't even know what I'm about to say right here, but you've been waiting for this, right? We've been wanting to talk about it and nobody's ever said it. The logo, right?
Okay.
I want to know more because I got a story to tell, but I want to know more about, you mentioned the logo and you mentioned it just briefly. Was that the first logo that you came up with? Or did you how did you get to that, the coffee cup, that logo and stuff like, because I think a logo is so important.
Yes, it is.
How did you get to that?
So when I launched the website in 2007, the web developer actually created the logo for that website. And it was a very, very simplistic logo that just said hiremymom.com. And it had like a robot looking woman. That was it. And so that worked for, I don't know, 6 or 8 years, whatever it was, until we rebranded. And when we rebranded, I thought, okay, I want the logo to speak more about what we do so that in an instant people can say, okay, I got an idea of what this website's all about. And it's not just a woman, because again, I didn't want people to be confused about, is this hiring a mom for domestic responsibilities? I wanted to be clear that it was for business type work from home. And that's where the whole idea of giving those small images of working from home.
As a marketer, when your logo can, kind of communicate what you do in a picture, that's pretty awesome. Right? Mm-hmm. So kudos to you there. You're obviously a pioneer. Like you said, you were in the work from home space before it was even, employers, it just was a non-starter.
You brought that up to your employer. They're like, yeah, you can work from home.
Right.
permanently.
for free.
You know, I remember people came to me and I used to be
Oh.
that way. Like, nope, you have to come to the office
But,
every day.
but I'm curious because you're a pioneer. You talk about things like rebranding. The concepts that you're on are ahead of its time. So I'm curious, who do you turn to for help and advice? You have to have someone who's been there, right? At these pivotal times, guiding you. Where do you go to for your own help?
Yeah, I primarily just go to my circle of friends and business friends. I
Mhm.
have used coaches at different times in my business. But when I started out, I had only been in the real workforce for about a year. So I did not have a ton of business experience. I had a lot of education. I had internships and I worked my way through high school and college, but not, in fancy business jobs. They were like, not McDonald's, but Burger King and, restaurants and things like that. So I did have to learn a lot on my own, but I'm an avid reader. I love podcasts. So I do as much research on my own and try to learn what I can. But then, like I said, we have a varied friend group with attorneys and business owners and, oil and gas executives. So I go to them when I have a quick question. And then when I feel like I'm in a season where I really want to kind of move to another level, then I've hired coaches to help me.
And you're based out of Texas, correct?
Yes. Mhm.
Houston area?
Yes.
Are you from there? Are you from Houston originally?
I am. I was born
Okay.
in Houston. Yeah,
Klein High School?
I do.
Okay. My business partner went to Klein, and a couple of guys that I went to college with, we went to college down here in South Florida, FAU, right? Go Owls, right? Right now they got, finally somebody knows who they are.
Yeah.
But I went to college with a bunch of guys that went to Klein. So
I
my
went to
business partner,
Tomball, which is maybe, 20 or 30 minutes from Klein.
yeah, it's funny. Houston is such a big area. Back when I was in the in-person job fair world, Houston was a market we hadn't broke into yet, but we were going to. And I was like, Houston's so big. I could do North Houston job fair 1 month. The next month I could go to South, the next month East, the next month West, because it's so spread out, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of big cities out there, but they're big cities close. Houston's very spread out. So I love. Now you would mention, it's Texas. I gotta ask. You said restaurants, barbecue, positive or negative for you?
Love barbecue, but Tex-Mex all the way.
All right.
Okay.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's more John's speed,
Yeah, I'll
right?
take that any day. Yeah.
I'm a diehard Texas barbecue fan, so
Okay.
I won't take an hour on the podcast talking about barbecue.
It's funny. We landed in Houston. We were on a trip, and it was on the flight back. It had a layover in Houston, and it was like 6 hours. And we're like, we don't know where we are, what we're doing, nothing. We jump in an Uber, and we're just like, take us somewhere, take us like to a downtown. And we found this really great Tex-Mex place. It was unbelievable. We had a great time. Enjoyed it very much. Yeah.
What was
Yeah.
the name of it? You
I
remember?
don't remember the name of it. I mean, he literally just drops us off on the corner. He's like, yeah, walk around here. There's a lot of cool stuff. We're like,
Okay.
okay.
So
Yeah.
Tex-Mex. Next time I'll be in Houston in a few months.
It's on my Facebook, so I could find it for you. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
interesting. I'll have to say that.
Yeah, it was
So,
really good.
you mentioned one thing on your, it's on your LinkedIn, the mompreneur.
Mhm.
I love that word, right? I love it. I think it needs to be talked about more. I've actually said, I think the hardest job out there is a stay-at-home mom. And I'm not just saying this because of my wife. She babysits, she does a little side hustle too, but like I see what she does. And last night, she went to the church group, right? They had an encounter night at our church. And so she went there and she goes, listen, all I need you to do is take out the kids, all the backpack, right? Take out their things, wash their things, put them away, get them in the shower, get their homework done. So she leaves.
Keep them alive for a
I
couple
get
days.
where I really think I'm a good dad, right?
Yeah, you are.
And so what do? I feed them dinner. We're eating dinner. My youngest, I have a 5-year-old and an 8-year-old. My youngest goes, Dad, you told me we were going to go fishing today. Let's go get worms. And I'm like, well, it's kind of late. It's 7:30. Now their bedtime, we start at 7. It's 7:30 already. He goes, I want worms. I'm like, oh man, I forgot. I need to go get the prime rib for Easter and it's on sale today. So I got to run over there. 7:30. This goes through my head. So what do you think I do? 7:30, we go to the grocery store. Then we got to go to the place to get the worms. We get home. It's almost 9. And my wife then shows up, home, and she's like,
What is
you had one job. So the hardest job, and I will say it out there, harder than my job, and I would never want to change it. I love my kids. I'm not a good sit dad, but the mompreneur, I love that word. What does that mean to you, right? You're running your business, but let's go back a few years. You had your baby. That's the hardest thing, right? To give that baby to somebody else when you're there. Like, what does it mean to you to be a mompreneur?
Right. So like I said, I never thought I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. And I really didn't. I wanted to work. I enjoy work. It motivates me. It just inspires me. But I also learned very quickly that I did not want to leave my child with a stranger. Now, granted, had I had my mom or someone close by, would have that made a difference? I think it would have, but I still think I would have wanted to be at home because I felt like I was missing out on too much being gone all day. And I have friends that have been working moms their entire career and they love it. Their kids are great. So this is not a one size fits all by any stretch of the imagination. But for me, I just felt like I wanted both. And it's hard, like you said, stay-at-home mom, man, that's a full-time job in and of itself. So for me, what I found, the only way I could do both was to have help. And so when my babies were little, I had somebody come in and watch them in the other room so I could go out and, I was there with them. And for me, it was my sister-in-law. So full trust, had no concerns in that regard, but I still wanted to be near them. So I was able to work while she was in the other room as babies. And then as they got a little older, I think about 18 months to 2 years, our church has a Mother's Day Out program. I don't know if those are nationwide, but from 9 to 2, they played finger paints and made crafts and sang songs, and I worked, and they loved it and I loved it. So that's how I was able to manage working from home with little kids. And then of course, as they got into school, then I have the school day, but I never recommend a mom try to do both at the same time, because I feel like you can't give your business enough attention at the same time, give your kids the attention they need. Yeah, you could figure out 15 minutes here, 20 minutes there while they're preoccupied or sleeping or napping. But as a rule, I find it very hard to try to do both long term.
Yeah,
That's strong.
yeah,
Right
I
there.
think with like especially now more people working from home just because COVID disrupted everything and now that's a little bit more accepted. Setting boundaries, right? Because you have a tough time too with the kids in the house. I mean, how do you set the boundaries, right? To do what you said. It is hard to do both, especially if you're trying to launch your own business.
Right.
I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Remember, I lasted a month
Yeah.
working from home. I went from the office to working home. My kids, they know, right? I have kind of a rule in the house is when daddy's home, daddy's here, right? When I go to the office, I'm there. I try to keep it separate so that I can, do there. If I'm going to miss dinner, I'll be home for bedtime. If I got an event late at night, I will try to get there for dinner and then go to my event after, right? I try not to be gone because I traveled a lot previously, but they would come home from school. Oh, dad's home. And I'm like, no, I'm working from home now. It's different. And they're 5, right? They don't
Right.
understand that.
No,
They
of
want to
course.
sit there. And I think it's more acceptable now. And let's get your opinion, Lesley, is I'm on a Zoom call with you. It's a business Zoom call and your, son, daughter comes and sits on your lap.
Mm-hmm.
Acceptable, not acceptable, professional, not professional.
Well, for my team, I have a team and all but one are moms. And so they know that for me, it's totally acceptable. If we have a team meeting, and our team meetings are never more than 30 to 45 minutes, I'm perfectly fine if your daughter or your child is home. But if you are interviewing for a job or you have a person that you work for, I think you need to know if that's okay or not. For the most part, I think short little spurts like that are fine. But again, all day long trying to work with a toddler, it's not a smart idea. I feel like you don't give either one of them the due attention that they need.
Yeah, you can't do it. I just don't see it. It's a challenge. I mean, I saw that when I was there. If all of a sudden they came in and, my kids are still young, Dad, wipe my butt, and I'm like, I'm on a call. Like, you can't be screaming that, you know?
That actually
But-
happened to me way back. I was
Right.
I was doing an interview with, I don't know, some newspaper or something, and my son was like 2 at the time. He was like, Mom, I did a poopy.
Nothing will humble you quicker than that, right?
Yeah.
I want to switch a little gears to the business only because as a marketer, right, growing up in marketing, the most sought after demo is women 25 to 54. Like when you advertise, the biggest bulk of the budget is trying to attract women 25 to 54. Do you know why that is? I'll ask rhetorically, but you can answer it. Do you know why that is?
I will say that, people the small businesses that come through, I hear over and over again that their best hires have been moms. And I don't know if it's because moms are so used to juggling so many different things where you have to put your different mindset on to do different things. I think you develop a lot of skills being a mom, soft skills that transfer well in the business world, because you have to be super organized. You have to manage your time well. You have to be a good manager overall. You have to be a conflict resolver. I mean, you name it. You have to
do you help them write their resumes with that? Because I saw something one time, this is years ago, and it talked about a stay-at-home mom going into the business world, and they were like, well, you don't have the skills. And she's like, these are the skills that I have as a mom, right? Like,
Right.
I'm here. It's
Yes.
funny. I got to bring this up. So I text my wife, right? My wife knew that you were going to be on today. So I was like, hey, are you able to get on here? Her text back is, I tried, but it's too chaotic, right? Picking up my one son, and then she's got the other, the little baby that she babysits. It's like a year. And then they're trying to get from my one son, then to go to pick up my other son at the other school. It's right there, right? You say that. She couldn't get onto a podcast because it's so chaotic. So
Right.
when you have,
You're right. I've never seen on a resume, I'm a mom, like that should be probably at the top of the list.
She said a conflict resolution, right? Everything that you just said, they do better than anybody.
Yeah. Is that why they don't have the name Dadpreneur? Because we can't juggle everything. I think that's what it is. We do one thing. Not for nothing. I know this because I study a little bit of health coaching and things like that. But a man's brain really is wired to do one thing.
Yes.
And a woman's brain literally is wired to do a million
this
things.
is a nice, clean podcast. Don't talk about brands.
No, but that's also the reason why men do get to the highest levels of profession, not only because they're, not like forget that they're men and stuff like that, but the way the man thinks, they can get one thing done really, really well. And then the woman's brain is like interconnected with a million things and never forgets anything. And it has the capacity for, what they say, multitasking. And it's still very difficult to do. But women definitely have that ability where we don't. I definitely don't.
We saw that last night in me.
Yeah.
Right. Like I'm not there. So I agree. Now, how does somebody get to, very simple, right? HireMyMom.com. But if there's moms that are out there that want to get involved, is there any certain skills that you look for them to be onto the website, or what are, right? Because I know on the website you have, right, if you're a mom looking for a job, what kind of people are you looking for?
Yeah. So everyone who signs up is independent. So they don't have to get our approval, their skills and all of that. But because we charge a fee for subscription, we only tend to get serious job seekers that have at least some basic skills. And we have tons of resources, like moms who have been out of the workforce for, 10 years, how to, get their resume in a good place where they can get hired. We also have, HR specialists who can help write a resume, help them with cover letters, interview skills. So we've turned Hire My Mom into more of a, I guess, boutique service where we don't just have a job platform. We do all we can to help these women, and some men actually join too, who are looking for remote work, put their best foot forward, because we don't want them to pay for a subscription and not get hired. So I feel like I almost have a vested interest in these people because I want them to be successful. And on the flip side, the small businesses, we have services for them. We have a concierge service. So someone's looking for a remote team member, but they either don't like to hire or they don't have time to hire. the HR specialist can help take their project from start to finish. We have courses for people that are at the beginning stages of each audience. So we really do try to help them be successful in every way that we can.
So you're more than just a job board.
Big time. That's
Yeah.
a lot. Yeah, you're right. It sounds like a vested interest. Do you actually do have an additional income stream for placing somebody?
We do. So
Okay.
for the concierge service, I have 2 HR specialists who take those projects, one by one at a time and go from start to finish. So if you were hiring, virtual assistant, you would just meet with them. They'd create the job post. They would interview, present you with the candidates, a candidate summary, the recorded interviews. And then you could say, okay, out of those 3, I think, this person is the best fit for me. So that's something that just came about because about 2 or 3 years ago, I, within a few months, had small business owners saying, hey, I need to hire help, but I don't have time. Can you do it for me? And at the time I was like, no, I don't have time either.
Yeah.
That's not my strength either. And so that's when the light bulb went off. Okay, I don't have the time and that's not my area of expertise, but what if I hired someone who could do that? So that's been a really big benefit for, we tend to get a lot of attorneys that use that, and coaches and solopreneurs that, they may not even know what role they should hire for first. So meeting with an HR person and kind of going through what their day looks like, what they could offload and what they can't, has been a really big help for small business owners. That's why I think I love the audience we serve, because I fit in both. I'm a mom, but I'm also an entrepreneur. So I kind of see both sides and I want to help both be successful.
Yeah. It's so, what you said there, right? Small businesses, right? We were talking about earlier was, there's almost as many people that are employed by small businesses than big companies, right? So there's more small businesses, you said the solopreneur, they don't know what they need yet, right? So sitting down, that consulting services, I think it's huge.
Yeah. And I only came across you obviously through Steve and your relationship. And I think it is a home run. Like I said, women overall, that 25 to 54 is a coveted demographic. You said if they're a mom, they're great hires. But how do you market your company? How are you getting the word out for what you do?
Yeah, our biggest referral has been word of mouth, but we also do Facebook ads, Google ads, but we get a lot of organic traffic through Google too, because we have been around for so long. And we do try to do a lot of SEO blogs and that sort of thing to help our name pop up, but there's a lot of the mega job sites out there that kind of price us out of it, certain keywords. So we have to kind of work our way around that.
Oh, John, you're like, you just stabbed John. He knows the same thing, right? You have that, right?
Yeah.
But I love the niche, the niche of the job board that you do, right? I'm not going to get onto my feeling, right, about some of the larger job boards that are out there, but we had a guest on, earlier, and we talked about, right, because she kind of talked about the monsters, the career builders, the Indeeds and stuff like that, right? You're so niche. And I love it. One, I love the name, but I love that, who you're helping and who you're servicing. What do you think the biggest challenge that you've had to overcome creating this business?
I would say for sure it's been web developers. So when you
sorry, we feel the pain.
yeah.
How many have you been through? How many firms have you been through, or developers?
Probably at least 5.
Okay. And in how long? 14 years?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I've been through 5 and 4 years, so I feel your pain.
Yeah.
Right?
And what's really difficult about, Hire My Mom has such a complex back end with all the different things that have to interact with resumes and job postings and credit cards and cover letters. And, there's so many moving parts that you can't just hire a web developer. You have to hire someone. And I learned this the hard way. The very first guy I hired was based in Florida. No. But this was
should I give you a couple names? Yeah, no, I'm just kidding.
He did a beautiful like draft, showed me what it would look like and all that. He sold me on that. So gave him the big fat deposit, I think 50%. And then he worked me into giving a little bit more and a little bit more. I didn't pay 100%, but I paid like 70 or 80 and never got anything.
Got it. Oh,
He was
wow.
one of those scammers that just was really good at graphic arts and selling you.
Oh,
From there, I said, okay, I'm never hiring out of state again. I've got to meet these people in person. I've got to kind of vet them in person. Need word of mouth referrals. So the next one was a word of mouth referral in Houston. Met with them in person. Thought, okay, I'm really smart this time. I'm doing it the right way. They ended up subbing my project out to India, and it came back like on crutches. And so they did redo the site, but it did not.
I'm sweating right here, like just reliving.
Yes. And
Pain.
this is tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
I think I paid 20,000 to that last firm, or I don't remember for sure. So it's been a huge nightmare for me. And so the current website that I have now, the very first people, I forgot to say, not the guy that scammed me, but the people that actually created Hire My Mom were based, it was word of mouth referral. They were based here from a neighboring church. So I was like, okay, that's a good thing. They did a great job custom building my website. I left them out. I forgot about that. And then they decided they were no longer doing websites. So that's what led me to the person who subbed me out to India.
Yeah.
All that to say, I've found the developer who left that company, who did a great job, and ended up hiring him just on the side. So he had a job, but he was doing my project on the side, and he did a good job, but it took like a year because he was doing it on the side, and he just charged me hourly, which when I look back at how much I paid over that year, ouch. But he was like, I can't really give you a budget because I'm just going to do this on the side. And I'm like, I just need somebody I can trust.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I mean,
That's the toughest thing,
yeah, it's
right? We go back to mine, right? I narrowed it down to a couple companies and I interviewed them, and first company came in, kind of sold me, and I liked them, right? They were a husband and wife, and they talked to me like a salesperson. And I'm like, great, we'll see you in 4 months when it's developed, right? But then again, they were outsourcing it. And, once I realized, hey, they got to a point where they couldn't get any farther, I went to a bigger firm based here. When you said Florida, I was like, oh, she definitely went to the one that, has 92 lawsuits against them, that right, a $60 million software development firm that I went to, and then realized, hey, they got all these lawsuits and, they're dragging it on, and, the talent that's behind it. Then I went to another one, and the third one was actually really good. They were based here. They were just super expensive. And then unfortunately they couldn't get this one project done. So I had to go to another one, and I've been with them now for 2 years. I brought somebody in, and when I say 5, I brought somebody in just to do some part-time work for us, some QA on this. But my one that now I've been with, I guess, almost 3 years, they built the second version of our software from scratch because the other one was limping along. So hearing your story out there, it's so many entrepreneurs like you and I go through that because we're not tech,
Right.
We're non-tech founders. And to hear your story, more people need to hear that story. And I like to tell that I talk a lot. I actually am now getting people with these mentor programs that are coming in and saying, Steve, you need to talk to these guys because they're talking to these development firms, and I can't tell them they can't use them, but you can use your experience without saying negative things of why they shouldn't use those firms, because there's so many of them down here that they're that face that comes all the networking groups, all the startup groups, and like, hey, you should use my firm, and we're outsourcing it to wherever.
Right.
And then it's just terrible, but they're taking advantage of these startup companies and these people that have these ideas. So you stayed local, right? We still have that, right? It's kind of that big challenge. Now, what is, one other thing before I get my last question, video interviews. Okay. You mentioned it. Now, is that something, kind of give me a little bit of what when you say that, or that video resume that you talked about that you sent, tell me a little bit about that.
As far as when applicants are interviewing for a job?
Yeah. Like, are they sending, you said something about like they send like a video resume or video answers?
No, Well, sometimes an employer will ask them to send like a 3 to 5 minute video, like
Okay.
tell me about yourself. Why do you think this job is the best fit for you? And those sometimes can backfire because we've learned people will not apply for a job because they don't want to spend the extra time on a job that they don't think they're going to get anywhere
Mhm.
with.
Okay.
I always tell people do that in round two, because round two, they know that you're serious about them and they're more willing to invest that short amount of time because they want to prepare, they want to look good, they want to sound good. So um, but we don't get video resumes, but obviously they do a lot of video interviews like we're doing
Yep.
here on Zoom.
Yep.
So I do recommend that the ladies do their very best as far as make sure they have a professional background and not like dirty laundry or naked husband running behind them like you saw during COVID.
Right.
Or kids running and screaming and that sort of thing, because that's the way of the future with remote careers is I only want to interview video. I don't want to interview someone on the phone because you get a much better feel for a person seeing them and talking to them versus just hearing their voice.
Well, speaking of the future and what you just said there, I mean, are you looking to integrate more tools that help facilitate, these type of
Maybe like a
conversations,
hiring fair.
kind of like a virtual platform or something that,
We don't even have to go there, right?
No, no, the question really was what your future, kind of how you see it, really, that was a joke, but kind of how you see the next step or next phase of your business.
No, but I do think that's a cool idea to consider, the hiring fair, because I think that just
Yeah.
brings all of those candidates in one place for companies and
Yeah, I would love, we could talk about that offline, but I love working with those kind of things. But and I think John's going the same way I was going is when you said the video interview, I saw a huge uptick, especially since COVID, right?
Yeah.
We'll call it the spark hires, the hire views, the modern hires of the world has kind of changed things.
Mhm.
You kind of touched on it a little bit, so I'm going to dig a little bit more, right? You said no to it. Are you pro that video question, right? I'm a company, I'm ABC Mortgage, and I
Mhm.
say, I want you to get your candidates to answer these 5 questions. Tell me about yourself. Why should we hire you? Give me your background. Are you pro or anti that?
I love it because again, I think you get a much better feel for the person on video than you just do on paper or
Mhm.
even audio recording.
Mhm.
But again, I think it's a better thing to do in the round 2 because I feel like people aren't necessarily going to do it round 1. Now, I'm sure there are people that prove me wrong, but it's been my experience with the last few that I've interacted with. They're saying, we're not getting any candidates. And so we'll review their job post. And then we recommend take that out, put it out there,
Yeah.
see what you get, and then try that.
Well, I think it's a little intimidating too. You're gonna ask me to do a video. I might not feel comfortable right in front of the camera,
Yeah.
and all of those other reasons. They may say it's because they don't want to go through the trouble and not get the job, but really, I think there's a little bit of a fear factor. So the easier you make it, is my point, of like for them to do that. The more both sides are going to adapt to the technology, because it is a great tool to be able to pre-screen, get a better feel for the applicant, and find a good match. So what you
Mhm.
said in the beginning is you're kind of a matchmaker, right? I mean, your tool is really connecting employees and
Yeah, I think it's a hard thing, right? So I'm not anti it, but I think for the right roles, it can be a really good thing, right? We're looking at a world where everybody, right? We've talked about it a lot, instant gratification, and we want things now. If I'm an employer, okay, so we're gonna step back 12 years when I used to only hire salespeople. I had 50 people on my team, and I was interviewing 20 plus people a week.
wow.
That was a lot, and it took a lot of my time.
Yeah.
And it was sales. It was here. If I could have watched videos and said, okay, here are I'm watching 50 videos. Here are the 10 people that were dressed sharp, sounded good. Was that weeding out some of the non-qualified? I don't know. But if you look at this goes back to when I started getting in the job fair industry, putting on in-person job fairs. There was companies that came to me and said, hey, we have this new video resume tool, right? These video things where people can leave a 1-minute video about themselves. And this is great. I loved it. I was like, this is great, right? Because to me, I thought it was efficient.
Yeah.
They all went out of business. 3 of them down here in South Florida all went out of business. Now, I spoke with Spark Hire just a few weeks ago, the CEO over there. He said they have 60,000 clients. And COVID went crazy for them. Why? Because people now, organizations are saying, I want that efficiency. So when you mentioned that, that's what went to my head, right? When I think of like that video resume, I think of that. And I just don't know where it's going to go, right? I could see the positives or the negatives.
I did it once, I remember. And it was, I'm a little bit older and it just felt, it was just awkward for me. And here I am, a marketer. I'm used to being in front of and doing all these things. But when it becomes like you're pitching yourself in an interview, that whole thing, and then you're trying to get it right on the camera, it was a little even intimidating even for me. So
you mean you didn't write a script?
I had a 10-page.
You had a script that you wrote. John's a big script guy. I'm not. So what's next? What's next for Hire My Mom? Right. And I want to know what's next. And then how can people, besides a website, connect on LinkedIn? You said blogs, like how can people find out about you and what you do? Because it's such a interesting thing.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So yeah, we're on all social media channels at Hire My Mom on LinkedIn, Twitter, all of those. And then as far as what's next for us, we listen to our audience. So when we get questions on how do I do this or why am I stuck here, we try to create a service or a product for that. So we just want to continue building Hire My Mom into kind of a one-stop shop for, like we have just launched a course last month called Hiring Made Easy. And that's for those solopreneurs and small business owners that maybe they've never hired and they don't know where to start. They're afraid of making mistakes. They don't know how much to pay. So it's a pretty brief course, but it's a great tool for those who come to us and just don't know where to begin. So
that's awesome. That's kudos to you. That
is
great job. I mean, I love even, I always go to the name first as a marketer, but Hiring Made Easy, there's quite a few successful podcasts and other courses, and it's blank made easy, and it's just really working really well. So I'm glad you were able to grab that name because that's going to be worth a lot of money.
So yeah, and we have something very similar for the job seekers that come to us that are just like, I want to work from home. And we have a lot of teachers right now, but they have like no idea what the remote work world is like. So we have a course, to take them start to finish on everything from.
Did you say teachers?
Yeah.
Wow.
There's been a pretty big exodus of teachers.
Yeah, no, we have a lot of schools desperate to hire, but I was wondering where are the teachers? So they're trying to find different jobs. They're trying to,
They're stressed out, exhausted, and ready for change is what I hear a lot of them say.
So they're not, I don't know what Texas is like, but I know what Florida's like because my wife was a teacher for 10 years before we had our first son. Right. So that's what, and she taught at the #2 public school in entire state of Florida, and which is #1 in Palm Beach County. So she taught at a great school. And she's just like, you know what? It changed. So when our son was, old enough to where we're like, okay, kindergarten, I said, do you want to put him in that school? And she goes, no, it's changed. So you get those teachers, like you said, the exodus, things have changed. It's not what it used to be. I'm not going to get into the whole education thing.
That's a whole nother podcast.
That's a whole nother podcast, right? Weeding through the BS, right? Maybe we should get a teacher on, but you see that, right, in the financial aspect, and there's so much more that they can do to work from home.
Yeah.
Right. Go to hiremymom.com.
Hiremymom and xteacher.com.
Yeah.
Because that's probably the best of someone who was a teacher and is a mom. He's like, man,
I love it. Right. Like, I think so much of.
Yeah. A teacher's job is a thankless job. And it is, to juggle 30 kids in a classroom, woof, I can't even imagine.
So many people, right? It's so good, right? These moms can be there a little bit, right? I know it's tough to be able to go, like my kids go to 2 different schools right now on 2 different sides of the town. Yeah. And that's a lot of hard time, right? Next year is exciting. They're both going to be at the same school. My wife's like, yes, save probably almost 2 hours a day just in car line.
I don't miss that.
To be able to do that. But it's so exciting. So Lesley, we're going to end like we always end here on Weeding Through the BS. John is up by 2 in the BS detection. Asterisks, always got to say it, but John's here. He's up by 2. So Lesley, give us 2 truths and a lie, right? To give us
In
a
any
three
order.
in any order, right? You can
Right.
try to trick us. I've been not good lately. I think I've gone 0 for the last 5.
Ooh,
Like,
really?
Oh,
yeah, I have
Oh, I
not
edged up a
been,
little bit. Yeah.
I have not been a good BS detector lately. So
Right.
we're gonna hope that we're on the same
And
page.
you're not here. We're gonna sign this wall for you. So it's Lesley. How do you spell your last name?
Pyle.
P-Y-L-E.
Pyle, like Gomer.
Yeah. So well, we appreciate it. So give us these statements. Let's see.
Okay.
Let's see who can who's going.
All
On the
right.
wall.
So number 1, my husband is 6'10".
Whoa.
Number 2, I have 6 kiddos.
I see
Number
it's
3, I was an ambassador to Scotland.
Man, these, you know what?
She
Everybody's
was really
watching
good,
this,
though.
they're really thinking like the first couple guests, like,
Terrible.
you know, they were just like, yeah, these were 2 really easy ones, and then one was so far
I
fetched.
bet with the king of
The king of England, I think,
Yeah.
right? And you're like, oh, that's
Yeah.
easy because there wasn't a king, right? Until all right.
So 6'10", 6 kids, or ambassador to Scotland. Wow. Hmm.
This is a tough one. You know
Yeah.
why? Do you know why I think it's tough? Because she mentioned a son and a daughter, right? So she mentioned 2.
Mhm. To jump to 6, that's a big.
But then is it like,
Hmm.
I got to go with my gut. I'm going to say she doesn't have 6 kids.
And I'm gonna say your husband is not quite 6'10".
You got it. I do not have 6 kids.
Oh, that's one back.
Finally, I'm back. I'm back.
That was good. You picked up on that better than me, so I didn't want to piggyback on that.
Okay,
But that was
okay.
good. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
awesome. Well, Lesley, we will let you know when we go live with this one that's going to be here. We appreciate that. We'll put out your website and everything out there.
And
So
we're gonna reconnect about a career fair for sure.
but we appreciate it. Thank you for spending some of your time here, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye.